Puppets are everywhere inside of Elden Ring, one of the most prominent examples being Ranni. How these puppets came to be and their significance inside of Elden Ring is very prominent. And let me tell you, it definitely extends to more than absolute chimpanzees slapping the bass to the thought of what four hands could do. Just quickly, if you do end up enjoying the video, consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. It lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. Please friends, sit back, relax, grab some succulent and juicy prawns if you want, and enjoy. Seluvis is a preceptor to Ranni. He mentors her in a plethora of things that aren't particularly known, but most likely sorceries. At one point in time, Seluvis was a loyal hound of the Carian household. He wears the Mask of Confidence, which was brought in by Radhn after marrying Rennala. The Masks of Confidence were used as a way to show outsiders that everything to do with them was to be kept strictly private. The Fat Preceptors, who are also, by the way, known as mentors, are the ones that wore these masks. It kind of makes it seem like, oh, they were just keeping stuff about their patients, aka the ones they were mentoring, confidential. But it is so much darker. Pedir, a Carian servant, is charged with looking after what he calls ghastly dolls. We later find out in Seluvis' quest line that he turns people into dolls. The fact that the dolls and these puppets exist within the Carian manor kind of suggests that it wasn't just Seluvis who was creating these dolls. In fact, it was the Carian household, and by proxy Radhn. And this discovery can be felt all over the lands between. From Ranni, to the marionettes, to the jars, and so many others. The discovery of a way to transfer souls and basically become a soul slave has so many implications to the story. But how does this occur? How do you become a puppet? How do you transfer one's soul? Because believe it or not, there is a difference. There are two different methods of creating a puppet. There's one where you transfer a soul from one body to another, and another where you use the body of the person and turn them into a puppet. And I believe both of these methods link back to one central item. The central point I'm talking about is none other than the starlight shards. It says it has a pale blue glow and is what remains of a passing flash of starlight. This same colour palette, albeit a bit darker, is seen in Seluvis' potion, which can be used to transfer either the Dung Eater or Nepheli into a puppet. Further proof that starlight shards are responsible for this transfer of souls, when you actually progress further into Seluvis' questline and you discover his little sex dungeon, because that's what it is. I mean, look at the poses. He's doing some freaky shit down there. There is no doubt about that. To keep you quiet, he'll sell you puppets. And what does he ask for in return? None other than starlight shards. I find it really interesting that starlight shards are in fact starlight. Starlight shards coming to being from a passing flash of starlight. It's not really a physical thing that you should be able to see, and yet you can. From everything that's told to us, it's very likely that the inspiration here was photons. Now, you can't normally see photons. Photons are basically streams of light that come from the sun, and it shows us the world. Without them, we wouldn't be able to see anything. At any given moment, millions of photons are blasting at your eyeballs, which direct the light and allow you to see the world. Not only does the starlight shard constantly talk about light, it is also in a straight line, which is what you'd kind of expect from a photon. As I mentioned previously though, you can't see photons. They're not visible to the naked eye, and yet you can inside of Elden Ring. So what does this mean? What exactly is a starlight shard? Well, from the item description, it seems very likely that starlight is very much different to normal light. And let me ask you a question. What exactly is in the sky of Elden Ring? None other than the primordial pantheon of gods we see up there. The cosmic beings that constantly crash into the lands between. It seems very likely to me that these starlight shards are in fact remnants of when an outer god or some kind of being came past the lands between, and the starlight, the light, reflected and manifested physically inside the lands between. This isn't the only time that substances from space have actually rained down upon the lands between. For example, Star Amber rained down on the lands between. From everything we know, Star Amber was the start of glintstone sorcery. Both Starlight Shards and Star Amber seem very similar, and I think there might be a connection here, and it might have even come at the very same time. I find it very interesting too that starlight shards are found upon these monuments. The way it looks is basically basins which are used to collect this starlight. Now whether or not this was actually a tried and true method or starlights were just plopped on there after and it's just a sort of monument is really unknown. If there was a way to harvest them, well, there's a lot that could be done with that, and I do believe it was. It is no coincidence that most of the puppets found inside of Elden Ring can either be traced back to the Golden Order or to the Carian household. The marionettes are one of my favourite NPCs inside of Elden Ring for the simple fact they are so sad. They are puppets, yes, but they have their own being. They roam around and, by the way, they attack you. That sort of cognition needed to attack someone and fight someone requires some sense of consciousness, and I believe they do have it. The marionettes get even darker when you actually look further into what they look like. They have rib cages. On the surface level, that's all it is, but if you look further, you'll notice on the hands where it's wooden, originally inside that wood, there's real bone. This wasn't just some wooden puppet, it's a real person. Further proof, this is the hair which you can see coming out of the helmet. These people have been unwillingly mutilated beyond belief. Their bodies turned to puppets, turned to wood with this cage which entraps their body. Furthermore, this also links into what we know about Carian puppetry, and what we see with Celovus and what we see inside of Caria, the same family who was responsible for the creation of these puppets. These marionettes are soul slaves. They are beings that have been forced into this. This is seen by the fact they literally wear cages. It's almost like all of them have broken free and yet they don't know what to do with their lives. Perhaps some of them, perhaps all of them, are still under the control of the Carians, which unfortunately is the most likely answer. It's worth noting that it wasn't just the men and women which were used, it was also the children. We see childlike marionettes flying around. They're the ones with the wings on. I think the most disturbing part for me is the fact that the bones that we see on the adult marionettes aren't isolated to just them. We also see this on the children's hands, which suggests that once more Caria has been doing some evil shit, carving up children, killing them and turning them into puppets. And this isn't the only time we see child slavery inside the Lands Between. Take the jars for example. The jars are prominently used by the Golden Order. Now of course inside the Lands of Shadow there are jars, which is probably the prototype version which gave Radhn the idea to sort of push the Carians towards this path. But getting back on topic, child jars, there's tons of them. The one we talked to inside of Alexander's quest line is very childlike, where Alexander is more adult-like. The appearance of these jars correlates to their behaviour and how old they seem. There is something intrinsically magical with the jars. The jars, their whole purpose, is to devour strong warriors so they can bring their body to the minor Erdtrees and feed it. Yet it is mainly large jars at the minor Erdtrees, suggesting they somehow grow from these tiny jar-like forms. Their bodies are ever expanding, it seems, and that is really intriguing, and it is very, very much out the realm of plausibility. That is, of course, unless the jar's very existence is out of the realm of possibility. Hell, completely outside of the Lands Between's realm entirely, perhaps from some sort of being from the cosmos, which further links back to the starlight shards which were most likely used to make the jars. After all, we don't know any other way for a soul to be transferred to another vessel. A running theme that you'll notice is the quality of the being's soul that gets transferred is directly related to the quality of the body that it inhabits after its soul has been transferred. For example, the marionettes are used as cannon fodder. The lack of importance they hold as a general single being is seen in the fact their body is made of wood and a cage which surrounds them and acts as a sort of protective layer of armour. And also possibly a remnant of when their bodies were fully entrapped in cages. A bit higher up you have the jars. The jars have a body suited to their purpose, aka to feed the minor Erdtrees. And then you have things like the Valiant Gargoyles. Now the Valiant Gargoyles aren't a traditional looking puppet, but for all intents and purposes, they are puppets. Their bodies are used as a conduit for multiple different souls, The product being this amalgamation of warrior souls combined into one body for a singular purpose, which is to serve the Golden Order. And finally, you have dolls like Ranni, who are a special sort. It's most likely that Ranni's body was created by Seluvis. He is, after all, her mentor and the one she keeps in close confidence. Ranni is a special case. Ranni's soul was separated from her physical form on the night of the Black Knives. The result of killing Godwyn's soul was the death of Ranni's own body. Ranni's original body can be found at the top of the Divine Tower inside of Liurnia. Even though Ranni slew her Empyrean flesh, she is still a demigod, and part of that is definitely going to still cling to her. Hence, when her body was destroyed, her soul was free to go and find a new vessel. That being the puppet body she uses now, making Ranni a really special case when it comes to Seluvis and his puppets. She does this of her own volition. Perhaps the reason why she's so pragmatic is because she has seen death. Her soul wasn't at all times with this puppet body. For at least a tiny bit of time, she would have been free. Free to perhaps see stuff that we can't possibly comprehend. On the topic of Ranni's puppet body, I think this is the best place to talk about something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I've always wondered, at what point did Seluvis become disillusioned with Ranni? And what exactly led him down that path? Something very interesting to note is you can buy frost sorceries from Seluvis. Now Seluvis is the mentor, he's the teacher, so why would he have the frost sorceries which were taught to Ranni by another? It makes no sense until you consider that the body of Ranni's puppet is made to resemble Renna, who was a snowy witch crone, who taught Ranni everything she knows about frost sorcery. I think the truth of Seluvis' disillusion comes with this snowy crone, with Renna. The body of Ranni's puppet is made to resemble her. Seluvis is the one who created this puppet. Seluvis has a lot of respect for Ranni and yet betrays her. Is it out of self-entitlement? Selfishness? Maybe? But I think it's a lot more interesting to think he's got a lot more motivation. The spectral face near Ranni's puppet face has always intrigued me. A lot of people have made similarities to Malenia. Oh, is this Malenia? It looks really similar. Malenia and Ranni's face look similar, so blah, blah, blah. But I truly believe that this face is Renna the Snow Crone. And when you put it like this, everything makes so much sense. As I've previously said, Ranni's puppet body is said to resemble the Snow Crone, but what if there was more to this instead of it just being resemblance? What if it is her body, except malformed into a puppet? If Renna's body is turned into a puppet, and then Ranni inhabits that body, what's going to happen to Renna's soul? Will it come back? I think yes, and I do believe that's what happened. She's a spectral form hanging beside Ranni's face. Seluvis' betrayal makes so much sense, for if he did have some sort of close relation with the Snow Crone, considering he uses some of her sorcery, it suggests a possible connection of friendship or perhaps even more between the two of them, which means he's looking at his friend's face time and time again, day after day, year after year. He's a vile man and horrible, but I think it's a lot more fitting to think the reason he ends up betraying Ranni isn't because of misplaced pride, but because he wants to do good by the dead. Do good by his old friend. There's something quite interesting that goes on inside of the Lands of Shadow. Ymir actually uses puppets. Inside of Rabbath's Rise, you'll find Anna, who is a puppet for Ymir. The circumstances that led to Anna being turned into a puppet are completely unknown, but the fact it happened actually makes a lot of sense. Seluvis is heavily associated with the stars. Likewise, Ymir is also connected to the stars and uses the Carian colour palette. Which makes sense as Rylana is also found not too far away, who also is a Carian. It makes perfect sense that Rylana would bring servants of her family and their teachings to the Lands of Shadow with her on her long crusade. One of those main teachings seemed to be the puppeteering skill set. It's really interesting because I originally thought that the puppeteering and the puppet and the soul slavery came a lot later, but I think it started a lot earlier than we originally thought. before, that's the only possible conceivable answer when you consider the presence of puppets inside the Lands of Shadow, a land that's been isolated for millennia, far before Radhn married into the Carian household. There's two possibilities here. Either this has been with the Carians for a really long time, and it was just picked up and used for the Golden Order by Radhn, or Radhn and Marika were in the Carians' affairs long before we originally thought. Honestly, I like the second option. I like the idea that Radhg's been pulling the strings for so long. Radhg's always been a favourite character of mine, and if this was actually the case, it would just catapult him to number 1 with no contenders. Well everyone, that about wraps it up. I really hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and some constructive criticism if you've got time, as it really helps the channel, as it lets me know what you don't like, what you do like, and what to continue, so I can make better content for you all in the future, because at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. Please friends, don't you dare go hollow, and may you find your worth in the waking world. See you in the next one, and goodbye.